So I wanted to share my story about how I got into real estate, why I'm in real estate right now, because of this, or how it all happened. And all thanks to my mother and indicating the fact that if I didn't do this, I wouldn't be able to provide my worth in a family standing. So that's how it all came to be. So let me tell you that story. So years and years ago, I was previously engaged to my ex-fiance, and his family was a family of home builders. They build custom homes, and they also build homes to flip. They buy land and then they flip it. And that period of time when I was with him and I saw the struggles, stress that was in, he actually hated that business. He never wanted to get into it. But that's a personal matter on why and how it happened, which I'm clearly aware of, but I'm not going to get into the reason why. But that obviously has hindered our relationship because he was, I hate to say this, he was financially also in the grips of his family financially. So if he didn't do what they were doing and joining a family business, there was no way for him to get any financial means to do anything. Now, also at that time, we were in the talks of possibly marriage because we were at the age of marriage. And so my ex's family also dangled a carrot in front of us and made some promises of a certain investment and certain patience of being involved in the family business that it will come for a major payoff for us. So because of that, I stayed with him in hopes we see a better future together, because I really did see a future together with him. Now, all this had led a strain to our relationship in which he was constantly working every day. He only had one day off, and the only day off he had was the day where he wanted to just stay at home. And we really didn't have any days. He was just so tired. I literally was just there to see him, cook for him, and just hang out. Because again, financially, we didn't really have much. And so we just stayed home a lot. And at that time, we didn't have a lot of privacy, so we stayed a lot at his place as well with his parents. Now, on top of it, as his family business continued to grow, his dad said, hey, since we're in this business, how about we consider on adding more to this by having my ex study to get the real estate license. He just found having to pay a realtor commission is ridiculous, especially when it comes to buying and selling. And he just didn't want to pay any more of that and said, hey, I'd rather have this within the family. Let's just have you take the real estate license. And I was really surprised at his suggestion. I wasn't for it. He wasn't keen on it. And he was already so stressed as it is. He did not have time to even study. There was no time at all. He barely was able to see me, and his dad was pushing him to get his real estate license. And so at that time when I told my mom about this, she suggested that I should get my real estate license. And I was baffled at the idea. And I said, why? She said, if you do not take this advantage and help the family business, there is no way our side of the family, have any voice for you to stand on if there's any conflict of issue. Meaning, she knows that in case anything happens if I do marry into my ex's family, I would not have any foothold or any type of anyone backing me if something happens. Even if my ex was, supposing my husband was stand next to me. Because unfortunately, we are reliant on his family for financial means. And when she said that, I reluctantly see she had some sense. And I decided to do the real estate license or study for real estate, because it made my heart hurt seeing how stressful my ex at that time was dealing with building a home, having no free time, have no life, and I barely see him. And if he were to do this, I would actually not be able to see him as it is. So I reluctantly agreed and said, fine, let's do it. And that's when I decided to apply for the real estate course. And then in that midst of that time when I was doing my real estate course, we parted ways due to conflicting issues. And so while that happened, I felt really, really lost when I broke it off with my long-term ex, because we were on the verge of getting married. I had to break up engagement, but then I also was in a rut at the same time. I was a rut where I was working. I wasn't flourishing. I would not be able to move up in my job, because I was working in the law firm, and the law firm was a medium-sized law firm, and the admin staff capacity was already at max. And I know the fact that the direct supervisor would not be leaving anytime soon, and there was no room for me to continue growing. So I literally outgrown my position of 3 years really quickly, and I got bored and I felt no sense of purpose. And I kept moving and hoeing, and then while I was studying for my real estate license, I'm a person that doesn't like to not finish anything, so I ended up finishing my real estate license. And I will say, I had to reapply for that real estate license because being Asian, I didn't want to waste money, so I ended up finishing it. And once I finished it, I also realized, I got my real estate course, I finished everything. What do I do with it? And it never occurred to me to really consider going to real estate, because I only wanted to go to real estate because of my ex and to make sure that his family would recognize me as someone of an equal. But perhaps I was looking for signs. I was looking for something of a calling to indicate whether I should become a realtor or not. And there were. Maybe I intentionally try to look for them. And so I end up pursuing real estate because of the signs. Signs would be jobs that were talking about legalities, things about also another thing. The reason why would be is I end up investing in a home with my ex as well. And that was really scary. And the reason why I ended up being invested in that home, again, it was due to dangling a carrot in front of us in order to pursue the idea of purchasing a home. And so I went into it. I can't say it was a big mistake, but in hindsight, I should have known better because I was not protected. But I will tell you that story on what inspired me to be a realtor or continue pursuing it. But that's how it all happened, on how I had my first step in real estate, is because my own mother told me that I need to have my own value and provide my own worth into a family. If I don't, I'm screwed. So the motivation and the drive that made me decide to do real estate. So I did talk about it in my first part, where I had invested with my ex-fiance at the time in a home with two or three other shareholders. We ended up creating a holding company. At that time, I knew nothing of real estate. This was in between studying for real estate and investing in a property. I don't think I even did my real estate course at that time when this all started happening. This was all suggested by my ex-fiance's father, saying, hey, I think it'll be a good idea if you invest in a property that we found on the west side with a number of other people. And I knew nothing about these people. They were all people that my ex-father knew. So I trusted them. I left it up to them, since the fact that he was thinking, hey, this is going to be a great opportunity for a future prospect of us having enough funds to get married, potentially invest in a home. Why not? Doesn't seem like it's a bad thing. I end up realizing, and had no clue, that we ended up establishing a holding company. And my name is not on the title at all. And I realized over time, I had no name to the title. My name was on the mortgage, but I wasn't a director because when we purchased the home, we end up purchasing the land to flip, and finding out that there were three people on title, and one of them, it was a holding company, but in the holding company, we had a number of directors on it. Every investor's name was on it besides mine. And it made me worry because my name was on the mortgage, so I was hit if anything happened. So another thing what also made it complicated was that there was conflict of interest in the home. I ended up finding out that the realtor that helped us buy the property had her son's name on title so she can invest into the home. We had another person, two other investors together as a company. They bought into the home, and then there was me and my ex, and his name was on as a director but had no say or name on it because I was such a small fry. As much as I wanted to voice my concerns or have any questions, the realtor herself had no interest in talking to me. Never once had I got any response from her in regards to anything about the home. None at all. I reached out, sent questions, I got nothing. I was getting a little worried. The reason why was because as time went on, my relationship with my ex has diminished. Another conflict, so I had no one to contact and be aware about the progress of the home, the progression, whether I'll get my money back, when we're going to sell, when we're not going to sell, how long it's going to take. I knew nothing of that latter. No one told me anything. And it was awkward talking to my ex, and I didn't know where we were standing. So I just kept waiting. Another thing was, I ended up finding out that, again, knowing what I know now, there was many conflict of interest. And the fact that we end up, my ex and his father was the one that helped build the home. Another conflict of interest. Yes, they built the home, but the thing is, after we finally built the home, the realtor who ended up buying the home was also responsible to sell the home as well. So one thing that really made me upset, and if I knew now, she was triple dipping on the home that was being bought and sold and invested. She helped purchase the home. She had her son invested into the home. She invested in the home under the guise of her son's name, and then she ends up selling the home. So she triple dipped on it. And I was very surprised and really upset when I found out afterwards that I didn't have any say or understanding. I didn't know anything. I got freaked out, and I ended up talking to one of the lawyers in my office just to make sure that I'm covered. And he said, luckily, I should be okay. Fortunately, after I believe 3 to 4 years after the home finally completed and we ended up selling the home. I did make some money off of it. Thankfully, my ex was understanding enough to communicate with me and end up giving some of my my investment back to me, and it ended up working out well. But because of that incident, it really made me upset and really vulnerable that I had no one on my side to tell me what I should have looked out for, what should have been told to me, what was wrong. And I felt so lost and alone, clearly because I was such a small fry, a very small investor, that the agent never bothered even talking to me for any of the concerns I had, even remotely reached out. And I don't even think my ex at that time even knew anything what was going on. He just was there just to build a home, and then just kind of left it up to the large investors and his dad, I suppose, to deal what we were supposed to do. And so all I did was focus on making sure to make my monthly mortgage payments, because I was scared to default. I've never done this in my entire life. This was the first time I was freaking out like crazy. And because of that, it made me realize I don't want anyone else to go through the same thing that's happened to me. And I just felt so vulnerable. I wanted to make sure that if I were a buyer or seller, that I should receive utmost transparency. Be an advocate for someone to create awareness and provide the right knowledge that benefits the buyer to know, or buyer or seller to know what they're doing, and not be shrouded in mystery. And obviously that agent made me very upset to see how greedy that person was, how much conflict of interest was in that transaction. And it made me realize, you know what? I don't want that for anyone else to happen. If that person gets into real estate, I can be in real estate too and provide a better interaction relationship and make sure that they're educated and not have to put me in that situation. Again, I was very lucky that nothing happened. I did not lose any money, but this entire ordeal made me realize how unfair it is for people who are not knowledgeable in that area. And it also made me realize realtors are assholes at times, are very slimy, very selfish. I'm not saying all of them are, it's just that you're gonna meet some, and there are gonna be some in any industry. And I'm just wanting to uphold my belief and making sure that any client I deal with is never gonna be experiencing that same situation I was in years and years ago. And to this day, I still believe that, and I never want anyone to go through that. So this is really reason my motivation, why I decided to join real estate or actually pursue real estate after I got my license. I think that was my biggest motivator and one of the biggest signs on why I decided real estate is the way to go. Another thing is also because it is a career, and what I was doing at the law firm was not a career, and I guess I wanted to make sure that I had a career because everyone I knew was career-based and I didn't feel like I had a career. So that's how I decided to be a realtor and make it so. I know that a lot of people who knows me were very surprised I made that choice, because I don't think I have it they didn't think I had what it takes to be a realtor. Honestly, I didn't think so either. Because I believe most realtors are very cutthroat, they're very aggressive, they're competitive. I'm nothing like that at all. But I think at the end of the day, everybody has their own pace and reason, and that's my reason on why I end up being a realtor. So I gotta thank my mom that she was right to push me to go real estate, the initial push. And I guess you can say I really thank that agent who made all those terrible conflict of interest moves to really motivate me to really get me on the path of real estate, and also feeling that pressure of needing a career. So that concludes my story of what got me into real estate, and still working on this. Hopefully I'll finish it if you guys like it. I've been wanting to do a bit more art, so alright, see you later.